Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another Versus Video Deck Tech. I am BBD, joined by
CVM.
Yep, starting to fill his beard back in a little bit after
We're trying real hard.
A crazed barber and a shaving incident. But yeah, anyway, we are going to be battling with more Khans of Tarkir. We played some last week, and we're going to be playing more this week.
Yep, we have the entire spoiler now, so our lists are a little more focused.
Yes.
Just a little. Don't give us that much credit yet, but they're definitely a little more focused than last time.
And my deck is focused on the Butcher. He is the first guy on the old Butcher's block, as it's called. This card is extremely good. So he's a 5/4 flyer for 4. That's already an impressive rate. That's That's like Desecration Demon stats with no drawback. And instead, he has actually 3 upside abilities.
Yep.
So you can sacrifice a creature, a different creature, to give him either Vigilance, Lifelink, or Haste. So the main one here is Haste. Being able to sacrifice a creature and give him the Haste is very big game. And then Lifelink and Vigilance can become relevant later on in a game. But just having a 5/4 Haste for 4 is just astronomically good.
Yeah, it gets in a lot of damage and makes racing really awkward, as does his lifelink ability and vigilance ability, actually. But it's very important that he is a 5-power flyer with haste so that he can kill most planeswalkers that are going up in loyalty. So Nissa is going up to 4, so that he kills Nissa. He can kill a Xenaghost. He can also kill a Sarkhan, which goes up to 5, which is very important.
He can kill Elspeth, which also goes to 5.
Yeah.
There's one planeswalker, though, that eludes the Butcher, and that is Jace, the Living Guild Pact.
Yeah. Doesn't Liliana Vest go up to 6 as well?
It does, yeah.
And we can't beat them all.
You can just beat almost all of them.
We can beat the ones that are played.
Yeah. And to go with Butcher, we have Goblin Rabblemaster. So Rabble and Butcher are like 2 peas in a real ugly pod. Because Goblin Rabblemaster generates a Goblin token every turn, and you have to attack with that Goblin every turn, and a lot of times your opponent's just going to sit there and block with a creature. So you're not actually getting anything out of the Rabblemaster in those situations. However, you can sack that creature to the Butcher every turn. And first turn, you can give the Butcher haste. Subsequent turns, you can give it lifelink or vigilance, whichever is more relevant. There's just a lot you can do with the combination of Butcher and Rabblemaster. It's actually just pretty sweet.
As if Goblin Rabblemaster needed another reason to be good.
Yep. Because it doesn't, because I know you guys have heard about the old Thoughtseize into Rat, which dominated the last standard format, but we have Thoughtseize into Past Turn into Rabblemaster.
Or Thoughtseize on 2.
Yeah, or Thoughtseize on 2 into Rabblemaster, which is actually about as good as Thoughtseize into Rat.
Yeah.
So if you can go like Thoughtseize into a removal spell into a Rabblemaster, your opponent's just so far behind, and it'll end games the same way that Thoughtseize into Rat did. So I think Rabblemaster is best supported with a supporting cast of removal spells. So that's why I really like this deck a lot, because we're not super threat dense. We have only 8 creatures and then some planeswalkers, but we have all these other cards to supplement our threats. Thoughtseize to strip their removal spells, Despise to strip their planeswalkers and creatures,
which are really what the format's going to be about.
Yeah, Despise is a perfect card for this format because there's going to be a lot of creatures and planeswalkers.
Which will be it's going to be interesting to see how good it actually ends up in this format. I think it's going to be awesome. I imagine you think it's going to be awesome too.
Yeah.
When it was printed the first time, we had Stoneforge Mystic and Jason the Mind Sculptor, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
So the format has changed. The cards aren't at that same power level, but instead of it being a bunch of mediocre cards and Jason Stoneforge, everything is just right here. So no matter what you take, it's going to be worth it.
Definitely. And then just a sweeter removal to kill opposing creatures and clear the way for our Butcher and Rabblemaster to get the job done. And then the other threats we have here are Chandra and Sarkhan. So I like both of these cards because they both double as removal and a threat. Chandra is basically a one-sided Howling Mine in this style of deck, is usually how you play it. You play a Chandra, you plus it probably the turn you play it, and for the rest of the game you're just going to 0 it. If you had a removal spell, you can kill their creature. If you had a land, you can play it for turn, and if you had a threat, you can cast it. And it just really generates a lot of card advantage. And the +1 ability is actually pretty good with Rabblemaster too. A lot of times they'll have one big creature that's going to eat your Rabblemaster. You can plus Chandra, they can't block, and then you hit them for 1,000,000.
Or just something like a Courser of Crufix that you can't really kill with Lightning Strike or Bioblight, and you still need to get through.
Yep, and you can also tag team Chandra with Lightning Strike and Bioblight to kill Brimazes and Coursers and Butchers and things like that. And then the other one is Sarkhan, which deals 4 damage, which is pretty... There's a lot of 4 toughness creatures in this format.
Yeah.
So Sarkhan kills a lot. I like the fact that he kills Nissa and he kills the land that Nissa makes into a creature.
Sargon just has it out for Nissa.
Yeah.
He's a little upset with what she pulled on Zendikar, letting the Eldrazi roam the multiverse. So it's not looking good for Nissa.
No, it is not. And then Sargon also has an emblem, which you see him as his little dragon self there. Little artwork courtesy of a resident art director, Chris Van Meter.
I'm open for commissions now, so I got a couple slots in my schedule.
He'll pay you to alter your cards. Yeah. So Sarkhan's emblem is the ability to draw 3 cards every single turn, but you have no hand size. So pretty good. Probably not the best in this deck because we have a lot of cards that we want to just hold in our hand, but I'm sure there are certainly decks where that ability would be very relevant, such as the deck CDM's playing.
Yeah, the really interesting thing about the Sarkhan emblem is, building your deck to take advantage of it, I think isn't where you want to be, because if you're getting to the point where you're going to emblem a Sarkhan, that means you've made him a 4/4 3 turns in a row, and they should probably be dead.
Isn't it just 2 turns in a row?
Yeah, 2 turns in a row, and they should probably be dead from that. But in the event that they're not, then you always can just do it and see what happens.
Yeah, draw a bunch of cards.
I mean, Ancestral Recall is a good card, so.
Yes, it is. And they reprinted that in the set too. Treasure or something, Cruise. And our mana base here, we have 11 coming to play tap lands, maybe a little bit slow. But as you see, we don't have any early threats, and we have a lot of cheap disruption. We have 6 2-mana removal spells, 7 discard spells. So our early turns are going to be playing tap lands, playing Thoughtseizes and Bioblights and Lightning Strikes, and then setting up for these bigger turns later in the game. And I wanted the tap lands so that we don't do a lot of damage to ourselves with our mana base, and that we are able to scry a lot, because we have 25 lands, and we want to make sure we hit enough land drops to cast Sarkhan and Chandra and Butcher, but we don't want to flood out either because we don't really have a big source of card advantage outside of Chandra.
Yep. In addition, this is what I feel like we're going to see the shelf for Rabble Master as we move forward. So I experimented with it and was successful by playing it in the Jund Monsters deck at the Open in Somerset. I know Jeff Hooglin has been playing it in a Planeswalkers type shell for Jund. But you don't have to have a bunch of aggressive creatures and be on curve with Goblin Rabble Master. It can and will take over the game all by itself, as long as you set the board up and make the texture of the game go that way. So you don't have to play it on 3 for it to be effective. You can play it on 4, 5, or 6 and have it still be just as good because you've been stripping their resources.
Yeah, and the key for this deck is to, strip them of all their resources and then win the game with Rabble Master.
Yep.
But that is the main deck. Let's go ahead and look at the sideboard and see what we got there. All right, so we are back with the sideboard, and to start things off, we have 4 copies of Blood-Soaked Champion. So this may seem like a weird card to have in the sideboard of our super mid-range control-ish deck, but in actuality, I think this card is very good in the sideboard of this deck. So I've actually been playing a lot with this deck over the last couple of days, and one thing I noticed is I was struggling hard beating decks that had 20 pieces of removal, because I only have 4 Rabble Masters, 4 Butchers, and 6 Planeswalkers. So if they just kill all my threats, I'm going to have a hard time winning the game. And Blood-Soaked Champion lets you get around that in some way, because 1, they have to kill the Blood-Soaked Champion at some point, and 2, if you ever attack with another creature, you get to bring them back. So it just really taxes removal heavy decks. It puts a lot of pressure on them, because they're going to have to use they're going to have to have even more removal to be able to get through all your Blood-Soaked Champions over and over again, basically. And then to go along with that too, we also have 2 Empty the Pits. And I think that Empty the Pits could be one of the best cards in this format, especially if the format's a very slow mid-rangey format.
Yeah.
Because people are going to trade resources a lot. There's fetch lands, Thoughtseizes. You're gonna destroy your opponent's creatures. They're going to destroy yours, and you're going to get to these games where both players are sitting there hoping to draw a threat. And hoping their opponent doesn't have any more removal spells, which they always do. So
they always do.
They always have it. Empty the Pits is going to be really, really good there, because you can just make 8 goblins or zombies at the end of your opponent's turn, untap and hit them for 16. Now, Bioblight is good against Empty the Pits, but there are ways to protect yourself from that, such as lightning striking your own guy, or Thoughtseizing to clear the way, or they may not even be playing Bioblight. But I think that Empty the Pits
You also can sacrifice it to your Butcher of the Horde.
You can do that too, yes. So I think that Empty the Pits is going to be a very strong card in this format, and I'm excited to work with that. A couple of Nyx, Fleece, Rams, and Anger the Gods, because I think there will be aggressive decks, and even though we have a lot of cheap removal, but Rabble Master is not a great defensive creature, and we could easily be too slow to beat these aggressive decks. So having access to Ram and Anger is kind of a 1-2 punch. They have to overextend to get past Ram, and then you can Anger them. It's just a really big beating against those kinds of decks, especially with all our cheap removal. And then Deicide and Utter End are kind of like catch-alls for things like Perforos or Keranos, or just any kind of card, like maybe even Hammer, Perforos, just things that like Thoughtseize, Hero's Downfall, and Crackling Doom can't handle.
Yep.
And then lastly, we have one more Liliana Vets, again for mid-rangey and control matchups, because I think those decks are going to be very popular. I wanted one more card to really pressure them, and I think Liliana is very good because, one, we can, if we're both players are just sitting on a bunch of removal spells, you can just plus your Liliana to get rid of all the removal spells before you cast your threats, or you can start minusing Liliana and get cards like Empty the Pits to really overwhelm them.
Yeah, I really like Liliana.
And it's actually possible that Liliana should be main deck, or there should be more of them. She may end up being one of the more powerful cards in this format. But anyway, that is the Mardu mid-range deck. Goblins, demons, and dragons, as some call it. And
everybody's favorite creature types.
Yep, certainly my favorite. It's like Malfagor and Ib Halfheart fused together as one. Anyway, this is our video. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. And we're going to be back soon with CVM's deck tech?
Yes.
Yeah, it is.